Welcome to the fantasy audiobook. Naruto. Unlock the King of Flat Cut Template. Zaraki Kenpachi. Chapter 21. It is not ashamed to say such things. But it is definitely not a reason for peeping, especially when he wrote a small H article. Bajian stepped forward for only one reason. Mao Xian was still in the bath. Well, Jiraiya, who is in the various conferences, does not need such a low-end method. After Yi Bajian stood in front of him, he also seemed to lose interest. In the rest area next to Konoha Tankwan, two figures, one large and one small, were sitting on it. Throwing the wine gourd in front of him in front of Jiraiya, Bajian hugged his shoulders and looked at the man seriously. A very handsome man. The man who personally put an end to his hero story. Wandering Dragon and Angelica, the sea does not welcome me, Jiraiya. It was a life that made people cry and touched the heart. For Konoha, he was considered ultimate. It is a pity that the period of Jiraiya hero story is not very satisfactory. Just like the upcoming Nine Tails Chaos, he was not in the village by mistake, and he always felt that something was missing. You are not old enough to drink. After taking the wine gourd, Jiraiya smelled it and then his eyes lit up, and it's still such a strong and outrageous wine. Jiraiya, who is inspiring to visit the conference halls, has a lot of insights about wine. Just by smelling it, you can understand that this thing is not ordinary. Bajian didn't speak. He is not the kind of person who is good at words, and more often he prefers to express his thoughts in actions. And Jiraiya also began to remain silent after taking a sip of ergotu. After all, Yi Bajian is not Uzumaki Naruto. There is nothing to say with a kid who catches himself peeping. But Jiraiya is obviously not the kind of person who can adapt to quietness and enjoy alcohol washing in the dark. Heroes like to lively. After a drink, with a flushing face, he suddenly thought of Zhao Hong, the clubhouse he had agreed with before. Ah, the wine is good. Look at your boy as a man of temperament. Money is a bit cliched. Take it and see the latest work that hasn't been published yet. Jiraiya, who was eager to communicate with Zhao Hong in depth, threw a book and then turned and left. Intimate Paradise. Picking it up and glanced at it, Bajian calmly slipped it into Kabuto's crotch. After all, it is Jiraiya's thing, and he also wants to see how this thing is different from the H-book in his mind. Why is it so popular in the ninja world? Even Hatake Kakashi is obsessed with it. Standing up, the wave of Reiatsu in his mind has gradually approached. Bajian showed a calm smile and walked to the door of the female soup, standing and waiting. 3 seconds later, the cute girl with purple hair opened the curtain and walked out. But it seemed that the comfort brought by the bath made her a little tired. She yawned with her eyes closed and slammed into someone's arms. He opened his eyes and faced each other, fleeing like a frightened deer. It's him. He hasn't left yet. Holding the bath towel, Mao Xian's face turned red. Click. It's not a coincidence. Due to the impact of the girl, the intimate paradise hidden in the Kabuto stall accidentally fell out. The puzzled girl lowered her head and looked over. When she saw the look of the bold woman on the cover, she was completely stunned. He actually likes to read this kind of book. The impression of the cold and warm man in the impression of a strong swordsman. At this moment there are some signs of collapse. Bajian is as calm as ever. Bent down to pick up the intimate heaven, and then stretched out his hand to pat Azuki Shien's small face, as if he was testing the temperature, and put the hand that touched Azuki Shien's face on his forehead to test it. It's okay, no fever. Let's go, I'll take you home. It's weird. This is Uzu Shien's thoughts at this moment. It's really strange. At night, she actually agreed to a man with that kind of book in his arms to send herself home. But catching the moonlight, the profile of the boy next to him was clear. The discordant scar on it also crashed into her heart. I really want to know everything about him. Stiffly followed Bajian and walked forward. Suddenly, the footsteps stopped, and a trace of confusion suddenly appeared on the boy's face. Turning his head, Bajian took a bold sip of wine and looked at Yu Shien. Where is your home? Has it been played? When? I was played. Was played for a day today. Still the kind that can't resist. At this moment, the girl left tears of regret. Remorse your own weakness. It was played because it was too weak. I don't know where my home is. Why are you still walking forward? At first, because she was thinking about things, she didn't care about the changes in the surrounding scenery, but now where this is, she is almost walking to the death forest. You wait for me. The angry girl finally left a cruel word, and then ran backwards in a hurry. She swears that she remembered this humiliating day. The body that was hit for the first time in swordsmanship was incomplete. For the first time, I was invited by a man to take a bath. Will you ask me to sleep with me next time? Interesting. Bajian shook his head, said that when he really wanted to send Yu Xian home. After all, it was night. During this time period, Konoha should have carved a few street signs saying that it is dead at night, please be careful about Orochimaru. Yes, Orochimaru is scratching the subject. Otherwise you think he is so kind to send the girl home. I didn't expect that people like you would also be interested in women. Some people just don't resist talking. At the moment Bajian sighed, Mr. Snake with a sack on his shoulder landed beside him. In the dead of night, please be careful about Orochimaru. It seems that since the last conversation, Orochimaru has never treated the boy in front of him as an imp. Just analyze the tone of his speech to get this conclusion. Of course, this does not mean that Orochimaru put Bajian in a position equal to himself. He is not worthy. At least he is not worthy now. In Orochimaru's eyes, Bajian was just a stunning swordsman, and a mysterious teenager was revealed everywhere. You have been with me for a long time, aren't you tired? Bajian yawned and calmly leaned against the tree. No one can escape his perception. That is due to the Reiatsu wave, which is completely different from the breath of a ninja and chakra. But Shinigami. So as early as when he left Yukon, he felt Orochimaru's Reiatsu fluctuations. As expected of you, Bajian-kun. Without hesitating his admiring gaze, Orochimaru put down the sack on his shoulder, the surprise in his eyes flashed away. If he was discovered by Bajian before, you can say that he was careless and did not deliberately hide his breath too much. But now, he is working. In order to find a suitable experiment for the finishing touch of living corpse reincarnation. Once in the working state, he can be transformed into a cold-blooded snake, avoiding all perceptions. This is how he survives. Whether it is chakra or breath, it is seamlessly hidden. After all, this is Konoha. His teacher still has the strength. Konoha's perception unit is not eating rice, and there are a lot of experimental products recently searched, even Orochimaru has to work carefully. But even so, he was still discovered by the boy in front of him. Just an ordinary kid. Why, he can exceed his own understanding time and time again. As far as he knows, in the entire ninja world, only Kagura's eyes of the Uzumaki clan possess this ability. The legendary perception technique. Unfortunately, that clan has been destroyed. The boy in front of him has black hair, and it is by no means the orphan of the Uzumaki clan. Moreover, his information is very clear, and there are no outstanding ninjas in his ancestors. Bajian-kun, hide your edge appropriately, this will help you grow. Shaking his head, Orochimaru thought of the original intention of showing up to find the other party. Someone has noticed you. The voice became low and Orochimaru reminded him kindly. This time it was Bajian's turn to be strange. It seems that people like Orochimaru will never take the initiative to remind others of their situation. But he just said it. It's not like him. Don't get me wrong, Bajian-kun. Seeing the puzzlement in the eyes of the boy in front of him, Orochimaru smiled slightly and his gaze became sullen. I have been observing a person, a suitable person. That's your friend Uchiha Itachi. And your appearance broke my plan. I seem to have seen a more suitable person than Itachi. The fly in the ointment is that your eyes do not belong to Uchiha. But since you entered my field of vision, the out-of-normal behavior that you showed has attracted me very much. Who is more suitable for you or Itachi makes me entangled. So before I figure out who is more suitable, I don't want the equipment to have problems. Itachi has the Uchiha clan as a backer, but you don't. So, please be careful, this Konoha is darker than you see. Was it a kind reminder from Orochimaru? But the way of reminding is really straightforward. In short, I am interested in you, but you are not qualified enough, I am still observing. Until the observation is clear, you can't go wrong. I hope you are careful. Bajian laughed. He got it. It seems that due to his own existence, Orochimaru's attention has been separated a lot from Itachi. There is even a feeling of cultivating a container. Like Sasuke who defected to Konoha. Your own container, don't want others to touch it. Why does he like himself? Is it unusual over and over again? Such a pity. His wishful thinking was a bit wrong. He arched his hands at Orochimaru, and Bajian smiled lightly on his face. Thank you so much, but whether you noticed me as third Hokage or Danzo, then I have nothing to do with me. It's you. Konoha's night patrol team is about to come over with about 100 meters left. Are you sure you won't be suspected of carrying that thing? Pointing to the distance, Bajian already sensed Reiatsu of the patrol. Patrol. It seems to be this time indeed. Orochimaru, who is familiar with Konoha's defense, nodded, and the curiosity in his eyes became more intense. Bajian-kun, can you tell me how this perception is done? Perceive beyond one's own understanding. Even if he doesn't leak his breath and chakra, he can still clearly perceive the wind and grass. Byakugan. No, his eyes are iconic black pupils. The Uzumaki family. Nor is it. What the hell is that? Bajian's body makes him long. Orochimaru is full of curiosity. Sorry, you can't understand this power. He picked up the wine gourd and took a fierce sip, gave Orochimaru an extremely seductive look, and the boy jumped up and disappeared into the training ground. Before long, a patrol team arrived as scheduled. When the patrol team left, Orochimaru, who was hiding himself behind the tree, walked out. There was a crazy smile on his face. This world, there is no power that I can't understand. I'm Orochimaru. Bajian-kun, you are more worth studying than Ferret. The sunshine in spring is getting warmer and warmer. But the hidden undercurrent surging makes the atmosphere of the whole village slightly depressed. For example, the children who are still missing one after another. I also heard that the guards of the Uchiha clan have arrested certain innocent passers-by. But are passers-by really innocent? If you really did nothing wrong, why would the guard arrest people? What the villagers see and hear is only what others want them to hear and spread. That's it. Contradictions and conflicts will slowly expand in a repressive atmosphere. It has been a week since the opening of the ninja school. The students have adapted to the new life. As expected by Bajian and Itachi, their lessons with Shadow Clone went quite smoothly. Sweat like rain in the training ground during the day. At night, I sat under the stars and chatted with Itachi, and went to the hot spring to promote friendship. Bajian's life became extraordinarily regular. The only difference is, his strength is growing steadily every day. The first template of the King of the complete Zaraki Kenpachi from the Shinigami world, has reached 7% of unlocking progress. There is still 3% of the progress to accept the next template. The next activation of the flat cut feature will come when the second template reaches 5%. Bajian is looking forward to this. The flat cut feature is not unique. There is no change in the daily tasks. With 2,000 hacks a day, Bajian has completely adapted to this training method. Bajian didn't take the peeping that Orochimaru said last time. The days are still going on. Uchiha ethnic land. In the sakura flower forest outside the patriarch's house, several figures are sitting around a round table. During the vernal equinox, the most suitable thing is to admire sakura flowers. I vaguely remember that when I came last time, these sakura flowers were still in bud, but now they have fully grown. Bajian had never seen such a situation in his previous life. Sakura flowers are beautiful. Leaning against the tree comfortably and having a sip of ergotu, the taste is different and enjoyable. I don't know why, your friend gives me a very free and easy feeling. There are a few people sitting at the round table. The talking teenager looked a little strange. It has the nose of a teenager from the Uchiha clan. He wears a dark high-necked short-sleeved shirt and triangular protective gear on his upper body, pants of the same color, leggings, and a small sword on his back. His name is Uchiha Shisui. Shisui. The heart is like Shisui. But his character doesn't match his name at all. This is the second Uchiha teenager who is still alive and full of sunshine today. At this time, he had just returned from the battlefield. Set it as a battlefield, his shots do not necessarily hurt people. With just one look, Shisui, who was on the frontier of Kurigakure, gave up the task of instantaneous Shisui. His illusion has reached a certain level. Itachi didn't say anything. He couldn't learn the kind of temperament that Bajian had. But this does not prevent him from introducing his best friend to his mentor and helpful friend. 2 Uchiha, and a teenager with a foreign surname. Of course, there were 2 quiet girls beside them. Uchiha Spring and Azuki Yuga. The same reason that Bajian came here, Azuki Yuyan was invited by Quan to come to the Uchiha clan to admire sakura flowers. Shi Yan was somewhat restrained. After all, this is the first time she has come to Uchiha's clan. But since Izumi has been in contact for so long, she has some doubts. The Uchiha clan said to be arrogant and rude, she didn't see it here. Does this kind of rumors sound a bit careless just to directly deny a family based on someone's arrogance? She does not know. Quietly watching Sakura drinking tea, and watching the boy under Sakura with the corner of his eye. Now she has a touch of satisfaction in her heart. Drink a sip. Stretching, Bajian sat down beside Shisui, with a little appreciation in his eyes and handed his wine gourd. Uchiha Shisui, cheerful guy, descendants of Uchiha Kagami, have the strongest distinguished heavenly gods known as the strongest illusion. That, looking at the wine gourd in front of him, Shisui's mouth twitched. Thousands of calculations, he didn't expect that the first sentence of the best friend and himself was this. Drink, Shisui. Itachi patted Shisui on the shoulder, showing a strong affirmative look and encouragement. Some things are not convenient for him to say more. He understands that Bajian is the kind of man who expresses his attitude with actions. The wine handed over represents sentiment. If you drink it today, you will even know each other. To invite again in the future, that is to recognize your existence. Very simple and rude person. Even the same personality as his moves, the same straightforward. There was a few seconds of silence. Shisui smiled and took the wine gourd and raised his neck and took a sulking bite. There is no doubt that Erguotu's strong and spicy throat burst into flames. I heard that your swordsmanship is good. Putting down the wine gourd and panting, Shisui stared straight at Bajian. Let Itachi admire the swordsmanship. He wanted to see it. Come on, make gestures. After drinking, Shisui drew a kodachi and walked under the sakura flower tree. Senior Shisui really is. Seeing Shisui with a high fighting spirit, Uchiha Spring sighed slightly. In her opinion, this behavior is completely bullying. That's right. Although Yi Bajian is the man recognized by Itachi, a week has passed. The students in their class did not find anything special about that boy. As always, I fell asleep after class. Although the first round of entrance examinations has not yet been taken, no one is optimistic about him. Lazy behavior in class is not affirmed by teachers and peers. The tail of the crane is no doubt. And Shisui Senpai is already a hero who has returned from the battlefield to fame. The hero of the Uchiha clan. Challenge a child who has just entered school in this capacity. What is it not to bully? Quan, you are still too superficial to look at things. Azuki Shion shook his head. Don't say anything else. If it's just a swordsmanship duel, I think Yi's chances of winning are great. Are you brainwashed? Quan tugged at Mao Yuxian's cuff with a question mark on her face. Hey, didn't you have other thoughts after being treated to a shower by someone? Upon hearing this, Yu Yuxian was shocked and quickly covered Quan's small mouth. Where did you know this kind of thing? Hehe, we slept in the same bed last night. Quan sneered and tore off Qianqianyu's hand covering his mouth. I said Xian, it's fine for you to snatch my quilt when you sleep. Have you chanted that guy's name hundreds of times? What are you talking about next time I ask you to take a bath and give your favor or something? I think you are just being stunned. Yes, because there is no class today, and Azuki Yuyan has been invited to the Uchiha clan to enjoy sakura flowers, so I just took Azuki Yuyan back to his home last night. It may be that the last time Uzu Shion was stimulated by Bajian a little bit, she still remembers the scene until now. Dreaming is a normal behavior. But the dream talk was overheard by Quan, and it obviously became not so normal. What did I say? Shi Yan's face flushed red, and if it weren't for the purple hair that covered her ears, she would have completely exposed her already shameless expression. Tisk tisk, I won't say anything else, some can't be said, but I have a problem. Quan curled her lips, and the little girl had strong curiosity in her eyes. Shion, the boy, you know, what's the difference, you know it. What a god I know. Mao Yuxian was completely dizzy. How she should explain it is a misunderstanding. It's really just going to take a bath together, but it's not like taking a bath together. And what you are saying is as if I have seen everything. Don't underestimate the precocity of girls in this world. It is only a momentary thing to have a good impression. Or it's just a curiosity, and it's out of control from then on. 2 examples. Hinata, little Sakura, a guardian who silently watched Naruto's back for many years, in desperate situations, dared to stand up and protect him. And okay, Naruto is okay. Sasuke's full-time licking dog finally got the love he wanted. They all succeeded. However, the girl's heart of 8 trigrams does not seem to have much to do with the 2 rivals on the court. Bajian holding the knife has completely entered the state. At this moment, the person in front of him is Shisui, the famous instantaneous body. Although it's just a confrontation with swordsmanship. But Shisui is a strong man who has really returned from the battlefield, wielding a knife for several years. The excitement at this moment suddenly broke out. The body was shaking, not afraid, but the war spirit and excitement hidden in the wild heart. The fighting spirit is surging. Raising his hand, he threw the wine gourd to the ferret at the table not far behind. Yi Bajian hit the handle of the knife. I long for a worthy opponent. Roar. No heart-piercing roar, but Shisui looked at the boy in front of him, as if he had heard a roar from his heart. In his heart, lived a beast. I actually look forward to Jianzhang's full strength so much. Catching Bajian's wine gourd, Itachi's chest fluctuated. He has been practicing and growing together with Bajian as a sparring partner for a long time. But from beginning to end, he didn't see where the culmination of that person was. That is an insurmountable gap. As for that day, Bajian fainted after cutting up the rockery. Itachi didn't think it was Bajian's power. After his judgment, it seemed that the chakra of the body was exhausted. How strong is he? As a friend, Itachi wants to know this too. I want to surpass Bajian and get his affirmation and recognition. That is the true friend. Ha! The sword intent was vertical and horizontal, and the beast waved the sharp blade in his hand, which was more like a sharp claw extending from the palm of his hand. The seemingly ordinary flat cut gave Shisui a great sense of oppression. This is a man who is really obsessed with kendo. In an instant, Shisui understood what Itachi had said to him before. In terms of kendo, absolutely no one can surpass him in the future. I believe that the name Yi Bajian will go down in history. Kang. The voice of Jintijiaoming came. The squally wind blows, and the sakura flower splashes all over. The 2 girls who were addicted to 8 trigrams turned their heads. At that moment, the figure of the young man holding a knife slashed into his heart. They seemed to be drunk. Sorry, because it was a bit late to deal with things in the family. Not far from the sakura flower forest, a madman walked to his wife's side, and looked softly at the puffy belly. As the patriarch, in his capacity, naturally there is no need to say this kind of apology to his wife. But today's days are different. I have already agreed to watch sakura flowers in the morning. Usually at this time, his wife would only lean weakly on his shoulder. It's just that she is obviously different today. Looking at the sakura flower forest blankly. Following her gaze, Uchiha Fugaku's pupils suddenly shrank, and 3 scarlet Guyu slowly emerged. In the sakura flower forest, 2 figures seemed to be dancing, and the intertwined figures move the sakura flower falling in the wind. If you don't turn on Sharingan, you may even be unable to keep up with their movements. Uchiha Shisui. Shisui, who became famous as a teenager. Who is the other one? That is, Itachi's friend. Yi Bajian. It turned out to be him. How is this kind of swordsmanship possible? He can beat Shisui to this level with swordsmanship. How old is he? You know, that's Uchiha's instant Shisui. Surprised, shocked. After more than 10 seconds, he finally walked out of that emotion. Sengoyu slowly disappeared in his pupils. At this moment, he seemed to see something. That is the unique power of the potential young man. Itachi made a good friend. With a smile on his face, Fugaku suddenly said this. The Makoto beside him also recovered from the shock and nodded as expected. From her point of view, it is a good thing that such a good boy is a friend of Itachi. However, Fugaku's ideas are fundamentally different from Makoto. The friendship cultivated since childhood is the most reliable. What Fugaku saw was that in the future, a terrifying swordsman comparable to White Fang would stand on the side of the Uchiha clan. He looked farther. At dusk, sakura flowers are flying. The little discussion was over long ago. After relaxing for a whole day with the Uchiha clan, Bajin and Uzushiin were sent to the Uchiha clan outside by Itachi. Really not going to take a bath. It is true that I drank a lot today, and Bajin himself was a little drunk. The discussion with Shisui has really improved Bajin a lot. That is a fighting technique. This kind of thing can only be accumulated after a lot of battles. With the steady growth of Bajin's flat cutting formwork, this valuable combat technique is very practical. There is no victory or defeat in the battle. Because this is just an ordinary discussion, it's just a discussion that allows the two to understand each other better. Shisui also felt from the battle, if you really want to figure out where the apex of Bajin is, only a real fight can do it. His knife is also a murderous knife. Sorry, Bajin. Itachi shook his head in embarrassment. My father just asked me to let me know that he would let me go there, and another day. Speaking of the word bubble bath, Uzushiin, who was next to Bajin, suddenly squeezed, and then carefully glanced at Uchiha Spring, who was winking at him. She really wanted to be crooked again. Mao Yushiin's face turned red. Hey, we must safely send our Miss Shiin home. Quan was much more generous than Shiin, and he patted Bajin on the shoulder naturally and commanded. It's already night, and it's the boy's duty to escort the girl home. Bajin nodded calmly and pulled Shiin's little hand around and left. The hand-in-hand movement was extremely natural and skillful, as if he should have done that. As he moved forward, he seemed to be saying something again. Looking at the back of the two of them, Uchiha Quan pricked up his ears, and finally heard a few words under her unremitting efforts. Let's go. I heard that there are very few people in Tankwan today, so let's go for a while. Okay, sure enough. Quan was short of breath, as if he had found the scene. Coming. Ancestral Hall. The sacred place for the Uchiha clan to worship their ancestors. It seems that every time there is an important thing, Fugaku will meet with each other here, looking a bit solemn. Looking at the spiritual position in the ancestral hall with his back hand, Fugaku said calmly. Itachi knelt on the ground with a hum. He respects his father as the patriarch very much. At least this time. In his opinion, there is no doubt that his father can lead the Uchiha clan to prosperity. Your friends are very nice. Fugaku is a person who doesn't like talking nonsense. Turned around, straight to the point. Sakura saw the swordsmanship duel under the flower tree clearly. Jianzhang, you were praised by your father. Itachi smiled relievedly. Obviously, Bajin was very happy to be praised by his stern father. It's like being praised for yourself. Then, for the Uchiha clan, Itachi. Be sure to maintain your friendship with him. But Fugaku's conversation turned, and Itachi was stunned. What did the father say? The young Itachi was a little surprised. My father, my friendship with Yi, and the family. You just listen, Fugaku said lightly. He is worth it. I asked. Not this. My father. Itachi laughed bitterly, but did not continue to refute after all. He means, the friendship between two people is never mixed with the feelings of a family. Regardless of the existence of a clan, Bajin is still his friend. But if it is mixed with this purpose, this pure friendship has been tarnished. Father, what's on your mind? Itachi stared at that figure. His eyes finally fell on the standing stone monument. Next month, two figures walked slowly on the streets of Konoha. One man and one woman, with different minds. When the breeze hit, Uzushiin, who had just soaked in the hot spring, shook her shoulders and seemed to feel a little chill. The boy next to him didn't say anything and didn't mean to ask. Pulling it directly over his shoulders and leaving the Uchiha clan, the cloak that Itachi gave him, and then wrapped it lightly on Azuki Yuyan's body. Without expressing the unnecessary nonsense, they took the girl's shoulders into his arms, and the two continued to walk along the street. Very warm. This is the first time for such a reliable feeling. The girl who didn't know how to refuse looked at all this ignorantly. It seems so natural. It also seemed that he should have been leaning against the other person's arms to keep warm. Azuki Yuyan's home is located in the ordinary residential area of Konoha. However, each generation of their family belongs to the backbone of Konoha, inheriting Konoha's swordsmanship. In this generation, there is only one girl, Shiin, but her strength did not disappoint her old father. After walking through the last street, the girl's house is in front. After stopping, Bajin glanced over, and the next moment he raised his brow slightly. A thin figure was standing there waiting. This person Bajian knows. Sick Rice Seedlings Moonlight Blast. In the original work, there is a certain connection with Uzu Xian. When he saw the appearance of Bajian and Yu Xian at the moment, a very abnormal flush appeared on his pale face. Breathing also became hurried. Obviously, the sight in front of him stimulated him that his body was not so good since he was a child. Moonlight Blast. The role of the dragon in the original book is only Special Jonin. Died on the eve of Konoha's collapse plan. Just a glance at him, Bajian lost interest and looked back. Holding Mao Yuxian on his own, walked to her door. Watching the girl walk in, Bajian turned and left, not taking a look at Moonlight Wind. As early as the moment he and Yu Yuxian stepped into the bathhouse, Moonlight Hayate was already a loser. For the loser, there is no pity, nor deliberate indifference. If the other party is still a man, he will probably block his way at the moment and want to challenge him. But he is not after all. I have been watching Bajian leave the alley in a state of silence, but the indifference that the man left him made him extremely struggling. When Bajian left, Moonlight Gale looked at the suddenly loose door of Yu Xian's house. Slowly opened, the girl inside held the cloak full of apologies. Just walked in too fast, she forgot that she was still wearing someone else's clothes. But when I came out, I didn't see Bajian, I wanted to take a look at him. The somewhat disappointed Shi Yan sighed, staring questioningly at the Moonlight Blast. Why? Spit out 3 words laboriously. Moonlight Gale seemed a little excited. What why? Mao Yuxian was a little confused. You will choose him, a trash who only knows to sleep in class, you should know. It seems that from the point of view of Moonlight and Hayate, Uzu Xian had already had a good impression of herself. But now everything is different. The shocking question made Azuki Xian's expression instantly indifferent. Shut up. Interrupting the other party, the girl touched the cloak in her arms. Remember, the gap between you and him is like a chasm. He is not something you can slander. Also, please don't block my door and pester me when I come back in the future. Although he doesn't say it, I understand that if he sees it, he will be unhappy. That's all. Close the door. Mao Yuxian returned to her home. What Moonlight Hayate said was more like saying to himself, the moment he put on his cloak. She has already determined her heart. In this life, she will try her best to catch up with Bajian's pace. Call. Familiar training ground. I have been admiring Sakura flowers during the day, but Bajian's training is obviously not completed yet. The daily tasks will be refreshed after the early hours of the morning. If you don't complete them, Bajian guesses that you will not sleep well. That's a 0.2% progress bar. Although there are not many, but every time is a very real improvement. Wield a knife, hack and kill. Battle with Shisui. Bajian has gained a lot of new hacking skills, and he wants to make some more accurate classification and application of these skills. Although it is an ordinary chopping, he still has skills. The extra action when swinging the knife will slow down the attack a bit, and the short gap will also be caught by the master in preemptive strike. This is what Bajian understands today. Shisui is so powerful. Against Bajian, he obviously wouldn't use his full strength, at least he didn't even use body flicker technique. It's far from it. If it is only the template power, he is indeed very strong, but his age is placed here, and the combat effectiveness he exerts is also restricted. Shinigami World Evil Spirit. Zaraki Kenpachi's power is extremely violent and wild. After it was a Bankai, he was so violent that he couldn't control his own body and would tear apart the terrifying power of his body. Taking a deep breath, Bajian began to practice. And at the moment he swung the knife, a green shadow fell from the sky. 9,997. 9,998. 9,999. Ah! Puff through. Unpretentiously, he fell from the stake. The man in the green tights was not frustrated, and he waved his arm fiercely and looked extremely excited. Failed to stand upside down 10,000 times. Changed to side kick 2,000 times. The corner of his mouth twitched. Bajian shook his head. He even suspected that this fellow had failed deliberately and then added training items to himself. Might guy, if he comes, this night is probably not so boring. Ha! Chopping continues. Under the moonlight, the two figures started strange training in the training ground. A willow tree that was kicking frantically with his feet and gasping for breath. The other waved the knife, as if the master had a certain rhythm and was tireless. Boom, ha, the practice symphony sounded. The night fell completely. Wow, the river rushes. It is impossible to verify the source of this stream named Nanhi. But it has witnessed a lot of things. Something hidden in the ninja world. Standing quietly on the edge of the river, Bajian gently threw a stone into the river. Not because you want to throw it away. Just because of the two founders of Konoha. Senju Hashirama and Uchiha Madara, a few decades ago, also floated against the river like him. They are still urinating inside than in the past, to see who will be farther away. It's another day. There were two more figures beside Nanhekwan. Yui, patting Itachi on the shoulder, Bajian yawned. He finally came to this familiar river, and for a while he was a little emotional. A well-known river in the original book. The story of the two Uchihas also begins here. The final outcome is always regrettable. Shisui jumped down, leaving only Mangekyo with the distinguished heavenly god's illusion. However, his ideal was not realized after all. Uchiha, Konoha, and Itachi could only choose one. Without the appearance of Bajian, it is estimated that the story would still develop like the original. But now Bajian is standing here, next to his friend Uchiha Itachi. The story of two Uchihas in Nanhekwan is destined to have one more person. And what is the outcome of the Uchiha clan, and how will Itachi deal with it? Bajian has the ability to change everything. But it's too early at this time. After all, the Nine Tails chaos hasn't happened yet. Therefore, the Konoha executives have not yet turned the black pot that controls Nine Tails to Uchiha. There is no reason to deal with the Uchiha clan with great fanfare. Uchiha, still located at the center of the village, is normal except for the increasing friction with the village. What are you peeing? Itachi was a little puzzled. After looking at Bajian who had untied his belt, it became clear to him. He quickly turned his head and didn't dare to look. As always, the shy teenager, or after watching it, will have a feeling of envy for his friend's kidney function. Wow, learning the appearance of Senju Hashirama and Madara and doing the same thing, Bajian didn't feel any special feelings in his heart. He never thought of relying on learning the actions of others to surpass a person. Because when you want to know that you want to surpass a person, you have actually lost. Yi Bajian is Yi Bajian. Even if it is surpassing, others will surpass him. Itachi is accustomed to Bajian's special behavior, and he just squats. It's not a big deal, but it is impossible for him to follow Bajian's appearance and get a hot dip. He is the eldest young master of the Uchiha clan, and he still has this quality. On the contrary, Shisui, who had just gone to fish in the river, had a head drilled out of the water, his face turned green, the color very much like his Susanoo. This fish can't be eaten. Throwing away the poor fish, Shisui sighed and swam back to the shore. Today is out for a picnic. It's not that he is very idle. After all, he has just returned from the battlefield, and Danzo hasn't arranged other tasks yet. Call your friends to relax in the wild and enjoy a peaceful time. This is Shisui's greatest happiness. You know, Bajian, I have a mission. That is to observe you. I guess, Lord Danzo meant to suck you into the roots. Shaking his wet hair, Shisui sat down beside Bajian and said. Just returned to Konoha, Danzo did not arrange other tasks. But the only thing is to observe this young man named Yi Bajian in secret. I want to use my foot to know what the purpose of observation is. As a friend, there is no need to hide such things from Bajian. If you succeed in the future, you will be a colleague. If you fail, Bajian will know this sooner or later. So Shisui said. From the very beginning, when Orochimaru asked Danzo for information about Bajian, he had already noticed this unusual boy. For this kind of child with great potential, Danzo has a pervert desire to control. Absorb into the roots. But the so-called absorption is a bit more ugly, it is mandatory binding. The brand of the root is engraved, and the seal called tongue vortex genju technique will be abandoned from now on. Not all root members can be as free and easy as Shisui. What kind of thing is he? Calmly crushing the stone in his hand that was about to be thrown into Nanhekwan, Bajian's tone was cold and scary. Shish, Shisui was already stunned, and quickly stretched out his index finger to his lips to signal Bajian to silence. As a member of Roots, he knew too much about Roots, control over the village. If this sentence flows into Master Danzo's ears, trouble will come. What are you talking about? You were so careless. With a wry smile, Shisui sighed. It seems that Lord Danzo's idea is going to fall through. Bajian has no interest in Roots. Of course, he and Yangguan didn't know what the consequences would be if he refused Root's invitation. Fortunately, the current Danzo just told Shisui to observe Bajian, and he has not yet reached the point of the showdown. Itachi blinked next to him, but he didn't notice anything else. But it seems, Kansang, why do you have such a big opinion on the one named Danzo? The young Itachi seemed a little confused. Don't worry, you will have greater opinions on him in the future. Bajian chuckled lightly and put his index finger heavily on Itachi's forehead. Let Itachi, a clan of Uchiha, monitor Uchiha. It's weird that opinions can be small. Well, accompany me to practice. Since it's unavoidable to be noticed, play something big. Knife, chop and chop. There was a gleam in Bajian's eyes. Itachi, graduate with me in 3 days. Bajian, in fact, we haven't leaked the lesson about using Shadow Clone. There is no need to be in such a hurry, right? The rest days of the weekend have passed. Today is the second week of classes since the enrollment of ninja school freshmen. At the end of school last Friday, the teacher of the elite class Ryuji Yamazaki said that an entrance exam will be conducted from the second week. In addition to some basic theories, there is also a master degree of 3-body technique in the exams, which can be used to analyze the talents of these children. Of course, shuriken and actual combat exercises will also begin. He arrived at the school gate early in the morning and waited. Itachi looked at the calm Jianzhang and asked his question in confusion. Yes, Shadow Clone goes to school, they go to the training ground to practice. It seems that this situation will continue for a while. At least they can train comfortably before Shadow Clone is exposed. Don't underestimate Konoha, and don't underestimate Hokage. Bajian raised his head faintly and looked at the position of the Hokage building. In there, he didn't know how the 2 Hokage decided Konoha's development. But Orochimaru once mentioned that someone has noticed himself. Then it's uncertain whether 3rd generation's telescope technique has found the problem, so there is no need to guess. In addition to what Shisui said yesterday, Danzo deliberately let him join the Roots. He has his own calculations. The time of ease has passed. Rubbing Itachi's hair, Bajian sighed. Starting this year, this village will become a mess. What do you mean? Itachi had a good understanding, and instantly understood what Bajian's words meant. And most importantly, I don't want to be a kid who hasn't tasted blood when disaster strikes. Step by step to the closed school gate, Bajian took a deep breath. 8 inner gates. The 9th gate, open. Boom. With the power of the evil spirit and a roar, the school gate in front of him was kicked to pieces in an instant. Itachi was stunned. Knocking the school door to pieces, is this also a way of catharsis by Bajian? Don't ask as handsome, you have to make noise before graduation. Clapping his hands, Bajian breathed a sigh of relief. Far away, Itachi didn't know what to say. It seemed that this man always did everything he wanted to do, and he always had his own reasons. Also, what is the disaster that Bajian mentioned before? Ninja school, elite class. The class time has come. But the children are talking about it, and the topics discussed are indispensable for today's entrance exam and the question of who is smashing the gate of the school. Itachi sat quietly beside Bajian and waited silently. Everything Bajian has his own arrangements, he just needs to follow behind. The difference is that in the past, he and Bajian were sweating on the training ground at this time, but today they are sitting on the chairs honestly and there is less tension in skipping classes. Suddenly a figure approached. Itachi's eyes flowed and saw the purple-haired girl approaching Jianzhang. Return the clothes to you. Holding the cloak with a hint of fragrance, Mao Yuxian's face turned red, washed clean. This cloak always seemed a bit familiar. A suspicious glance at the faintly visible Uchiha clan emblem on the cloak, Itachi suddenly realized. Wasn't it that I was afraid that Bajian would catch a cold when he came home at night and personally approve him? Why did it get into Azuki Shien's hands? And listening to the meaning of her words, it was obviously washed away. Bajian and Shien, it looks like a good match. It's just, why suddenly feel a little uncomfortable in my heart? Probably, it was the clothes I gave to Jianzhang. With a snort, Itachi was not thinking about those weird questions. Bajian was a little puzzled by the special fragrance on the cloak that he passed over. Konoha brand laundry detergent does not taste like this. I always feel that it is similar to the smell on Uzushian's body. He shook his head and said thank you Bajian for continuing to close his eyes and rest. The purple-haired girl seemed a little disappointed, and sighed and went to the empty seat next to her. Hey, have you fallen completely? It was a good friend, Uchiha Kwan, who started winking at her again. I can't take it anymore. The girl gave each other a shy look, but at the moment she wanted to deny, she nodded in a daze. Did she admit it? Kwan opened his mouth and finally did not continue to tease. Yes, she confessed. How can she tease? Ahem. With a strong cough, the elite class instructor Chunin Yamazaki Ryuji walked into the classroom, and the atmosphere in the class calmed down. Obviously, after a week, this stern teacher is a nightmare for all freshmen. Everyone comes with me to prepare for the entrance exam. He looked around with satisfaction, and finally turned his eyes to Uchiha Itachi and Yi Bajian. Yamazaki Ryuji looked solemn. Two teenagers, Master Naruto, the young man who specially advised. On the surface, one was extremely active and serious in class, and the other was asleep in addition to sleeping. Great difference. Within a week, it is not clear who has the talent to be a good ninja. But as the head teacher, Yamazaki Ryuji knew what his attitude towards learning was. On the playground of the Konoha Shinobi School, the students gathered in a group, and Yamazaki Ryuji in the middle took a look at the roster in his hand and then squinted his eyes. After a week of study, everyone must have understood the foundations of how to be a good ninja. And today's test, I will record in detail, and send all the students' scores to Master Naruto. In other words, Master Naruto has been paying close attention to the performance of your classmates. This will affect your future. After a pause, Yamazaki Ryuji stretched out his hand. The test is divided into two parts, basic and actual combat. The so-called basics include subjects such as ninja common sense, emergency methods, etc. The actual combat is divided into shuriken throwing and group confrontation. The children listened very carefully. As Chunin's instructor, Yamazaki Ryuji spoke in great detail. But off the court, a sick young man slowly stood up and interrupted Yamazaki Ryuji's thoughts. One step and two steps. He finally walked in front of Yi Bajian. I want to challenge you. In an instant, all the eyes around him gathered. Challenge this kind of thing will always attract attention. Especially on this occasion, if a challenge is issued, will the result of the battle be written into the file by Mr. Yamazaki Ryuji and sent to Master Naruto? The atmosphere is faintly wrong. Yamazaki Ryuji frowned and looked over. Moonlight Storm challenges Yi Bajian. Although it broke the rhythm, he didn't interrupt it. Yi Bajian is also the observation target given by Master Naruto. In fact, his idea is to put Uchiha Itachi and Yi Bajian together when fighting in groups, and then the combat effectiveness of the two will have a detailed expression. But as the Moonlight Blast, according to the rumors, it seems that there is a clan of Moonlight who has passed through the escape and inherited the sword technique of Konoha. I want to challenge you. Staring seriously at Yi Bajian's calm face, Moonlight Hayate spoke again. Every night these days, he would think of what Azuki Shion said to him last, and the face of this man who ignored him that day. It was a torture from the bottom of my heart. Finally, he made up his mind. Use her actions to show Shiyan who is the trash and let her understand how bad her vision is. Inadvertently, Moonlight Hayate glanced at Uyu Shion who was not far away. But the mockery on the girl's face made him very heartbroken. Challenges such things have all come out. The students around looked at the two with curious eyes. Yi Bajian, what would he do if he only knows about sleeping in class? Everyone is looking forward to it. At this moment, they found it interesting to beat soy sauce in the elite class. Suddenly, the boy moved. Take a step forward leisurely, and then take a sip of the wine gourd that the classmates admire freely. Yes, it is indeed envious. Envy Yi Bajian's life. The only bad young man who dared to drink in front of the head teacher. Are you going to challenge? Moonlight gusts are short of breath. It's time to get your name right. Pity. Bajian didn't even look at him from start to finish. After putting down the wine gourd, Bajian looked at the ferret next to him. Itachi nodded understandingly. Next, the two walked onto the court in front of all their classmates. Swish. Both hands quickly formed seals. Boom, boom. Two white smoke flashed, and beside Bajian, there was a clone that was exactly the same as the Itachi on the opposite side. There was also a vivid Bajian beside Itachi. This is the combination of clone technique and transformation technique. Yamazaki Ryuji on the field opened his mouth and his face was unbelievable. Fast to even a little unclear speed of printing. The perfect combination of transformation technique and clone technique. These two in front of you are really your own students. Even if it was him, the speed of Jia Yin couldn't be so fast. Whizzing. Before Yamazaki Ryuji could return to his mind, Bajian and Itachi on the court once again moved, and took out the shuriken hanging from their waists and quickly shot at each other. Boom. A second before the shuriken hit, the figure dodges quickly and the half of the wood left in place, giving all the students a perfect body replacement technique. 3 body technique, perfect level. Are they really students? What puzzles them most is that if Uchiha Itachi alone can achieve this level, they can still accept it. After all, the Uchiha clan, who came from a famous family, came to school and was hailed as a genius boy. But Yi Bajian, who is sleeping with Tenten, can do this for no reason. Why? The children who did not understand the reason turned red. There is only one thought in my heart. Cannot accept. However, the next moment the movements of the two became even more bizarre. I saw Itachi began to retreat quickly, and Bajian, who was standing still, slowly pulled out Zanpakuto who was straddling his waist. It turned out not to be with decorations for pretense. A genuine knife. What is he going to do? In the distance, Itachi stood still, grabbed a total of 10 shurikens in an instant with both hands, and then took a deep breath and shot Yi Bajian in front of all the teachers and students. Whoosh whoosh. The sound of shurikens passing through the air made the children's scalp numb. Whether it is angle or strength, it is perfect. What is he going to do? Is it impossible to kill someone? The students looked at Yi Bajian and Itachi in horror. Brandishing a knife. Chop. Ding ding ding. Accompanied by the sound of jinti mingling. All the shurikens were knocked out. That tricky attack had no effect on Yi Bajian. What's more terrifying is, looking in the direction of the knockout, the shuriken with 3 pointers on the bullseye in the inner ring of the target that was originally empty for training is his masterpiece. The audience is silent. The performance officially ended. While carrying Zanpakuto, Bajian frowned suddenly, and looked at the sick child who stood in front of him at the beginning. Saw, what did you just say? Can you say it again? With just one look, that violent and wild chill, Moonlight Hayate slumped to the ground after only one word. The gap between you and him is like a chasm. This is from the evaluation of the simple girl Azuki Yuyan. At this moment, he saw the insurmountable gap clearly. I actually want to challenge him. Are you crazy? Moonlight Blast lowered his head. He has even lost the courage to look at each other. Is it completely defeated? Maybe the word waste in my mouth that day was meant to describe myself. The playground was silent. The students looked at Uchiha Itachi and Yi Bajian standing in the middle, and they couldn't calm down for a long time. Are they monsters? Only 1 week after enrollment, proficient in Master 3 body technique. Throwing shuriken is even more superb. Itachi lost it well. Yi Bajian's connection is more perfect, and the strength and accuracy of the rebounding shuriken is even more amazing. Is that human being? It's hard to imagine how stressful it will be to become classmates with them. The children of the civilian family are sighing. They are both ordinary people, and they are not worthy of shoes for Yi Bajian. And once swearing to his father, Inuzuka Hana, who would not weaken the name of the Inuzuka clan, gave a wry smile and was a little disheartened. Today, the excitement they received is too great. Has the challenger fallen? Bajian shook his head, completely ignoring the Moonlight Blast, and turned his head to meet Yamazaki Ryuji's gaze. Deliberate performance? Not really. In Bajian's view, it is not even high profile to take out the normal state of usual in Itachi cultivation. After all, pretending to be coercive in front of a group of children would seem to have no self-cultivation. Nor will Bajian be given any 8 groups of people. And doing all of this has a purpose that belongs to Bajian. Cough cough. Mr. Yamazaki Ryuji seemed a little embarrassed. He wanted to take the challenge of Moonlight Hayate to see Yi Bajian's strength, but now he understands that from the beginning, Moonlight Hayate challenged Bajian, and the latter did not take it seriously. It can even be described as ignoring. Ignore the last resistance of a weak and poor creature. But testing continues. Judging from the performance of Yi Bajian and Itachi, the following things have nothing to do with them. After all, this world only recognizes the strong. I declare, Uchiha Itachi, Yi Bajian, passed the test. Taking a deep breath, Yamazaki Ryuji recorded the information of Bidu just now, and then announced the result. But to his surprise, Yi Bajian and Uchiha Itachi didn't have any excitement, but walked in front of him with all their faces. Yi Bajian was in front, and Itachi followed behind. Click. Opening the wine gourd, the young man with the knife took a sip of wine and held his shoulders. Sorry, Mr. Yamazaki. With Itachi, we have no interest in the so-called test results. What are they going to do? Yamazaki Ryuji frowned. The moment Yi Bajian was staring at him, he suddenly had the illusion that he was about to be challenged. What's the meaning? As a class teacher, you have to get tough at this time. Otherwise, he will not be able to continue taking this class. Graduate early. Teacher Yamazaki, please inform Master Naruto. I, Yi Bajian, and Uchiha Itachi, are here to apply for early graduation and become a ninja. He caught the somewhat shy Itachi by his side, and Bajian's low voice was beyond doubt. Because, the ninja school has nothing to teach us. Ninja school. Nothing can teach us anymore. Listen, is this talking human? The children were at a loss. Brother, you just started school for a week, okay. Although I really want to protest. Combined with the performance of these two monsters just now, it seems that what they said also makes sense. At least in terms of the basic three-body technique and shuriken throwing, the school really couldn't teach them anything. Yi, is he going to graduate early? Behind the boy and Itachi, a certain girl who was staring at his back suddenly trembled. Hey, if you don't hurry up now, I'm afraid you won't be able to say what you want to say later. The spring next to her suddenly pulled the sleeve of the purple-haired girl to remind her. Becoming a ninja means that there are a lot of dangers, and after leaving school, they will have less and less time to meet. Teacher, please bring me. Apply for early graduation together with me. Exhausting her last courage, Azuki Yuyan ran to Bajian's side, and then firmly grasped Bajian's arm. I think, together with Bajian-kun, we will become a ninja and face the dangers in the future. Until it surpasses Bajian-kun. From the spectator behind, to one of the protagonists, how much courage the girl must muster to face all this. Bajian stared at Mao Yuxian in a daze. To be honest, he didn't expect it at all. But become a ninja, team up with yourself to face danger. It was too early for her. Slowly, forget it this time, Bajian said. Is it true? The girl's face was full of loss. Click, stretching out his index finger, lightly tapping on Mao Yuxian's forehead, the young man showed a smile. Next time, when you graduate, I will pick you up. Hi, Jianzhang, isn't that something that happens to me? Ferret raised his eyebrows and snorted. Chapter 31. What a messy little guy. Konoha, inside the Hokage building. Looking at the information and documents on the desk, Namikaze Minato rubbed his temples with a struggling face, looking a little irritable. Third Hokage is not there. So he rarely has it, he can make some ideas on his own. Looking at the desk, the two data cards sighed. Early graduation application. A copy of Uchiha Itachi from the Uchiha clan. The other is Yi Bajian, whom he has been paying attention to early on. Like him, a boy of civilian origin. But the other's talent is stronger than his own. From Yi Bajian, he even saw something he didn't possess. That kind of unyielding spirit. At least the other party dared to fight. Therefore, Minato actually has its own considerations for Yi Bajian's growth. When the other party graduated successfully, he even had an idea of accepting apprentices. Accept disciples, and then teach them carefully. Let him fulfill his unfinished dream. This is probably Minato's idea. But he never expected Yi Bajian to play such a big game, and he wanted to graduate early. Together with the genius boy of the Uchiha clan. How can this be done? Mu Shuyu Linfang will destroy him. He doesn't think that if he graduates from the ninja school, the other party has enough ability to protect himself. Turning the pen in his hand, Minato's thoughts began to spin. I don't know how long it took. When Minato noticed that the door of the Hokage office seemed to be pushed open, he instantly wrote a few large characters on the application form with a pen. Through a report by Chunin Ryuji Yamazaki, Yi Bajian and Uchiha Itachi were given the qualifications to graduate early. From now on, become a ninja. Closing the pen, Minato breathed a sigh of relief. Since this was Yi Bajian's own choice, he chose to trust the other party. Approving the graduation application is probably the only thing I can do. I heard that there are two amazing little guys out of the ninja school. Smoking a big pipe, Sarutobi walked into the office with a smile, and as soon as he approached him, he saw the two applications on the desk that had been approved for graduation. After opening his mouth and taking a look at Minato, Sarutobi did not speak anymore after all. Just now, he chatted with Danzo. There is no doubt that his old buddy has taken a fancy to these two men. Unfortunately, Minato's attitude has become obvious. Now that important person, he can't hold back this old face. Yeah, two nice little guys. It even refreshed the record of Kakashi's early graduation time. I believe that they will be Konoha's excellent ninjas. Nodded in the sun, Minato felt relieved. Konoha's excellent ninja. He bit these words to death. The next day, a piece of news spread completely in Konoha. Only 1 week before the start of the ninja school season, the two teenagers have completed all their studies like a rocket and have already applied for early graduation. One of them, Uchiha Itachi, a genius boy of the Uchiha clan. The other is Yi Bajian, who is little known, but now, he is a well-deserved genius. Their strength has been collectively affirmed by this elite class of the ninja school. Ah, isn't it sure? If they continue to stay in the class, one can imagine how stressful they will be as classmates. What was even more unexpected was that Konoha's senior management gave an unexpectedly fast response rate. Namikaze Minato, in the name of 4th Hokage, officially announced that the two will be allowed to apply for early graduation, and they will officially become ninjas from today. 3 days later, they will be received at the Hokage office and awarded Konoha Shinobi Forehead Protector. I really graduated early. In just 1 week of enrollment, I have accomplished things that other children could only accomplish in a few years. The news spread like wildfire. It doesn't need to be spread, the whole Konoha boils. This is exciting news. Konoha has been silent for too long. Konoha, who has not completely emerged from the Third Ninja World War, needs this kind of news to wash away the grief caused by the war. I knew that people like you would never stay in a place where children play for too long. Bala. As an unknown liquid was poured into the test tube, Orochimaru in the dark laboratory stretched out his tongue and licked his lips, seemingly not surprised at the news of Bajian's graduation. Let me see, Bajian-kun, you and Itachi-kun are unusual. Walking towards the horrified subject, Orochimaru had a grim face. No matter how the outside world views this matter, it has nothing to do with Bajian. There is no need to go to the ninja school anymore. He only needs to wait 3 days, and then go to the Hokage building to receive his forehead protector. As for whether the above will arrange to instruct Jonin, Bajian doesn't care. Because of his existence, the horrible progress of Itachi in the original work that he spent a year in school before graduating earlier has advanced again. But some things can't be solved by graduation. I vaguely remember that Itachi performed the sea-level mission for the first time, and he was the only one left after returning. Sharingan is also turned on. Yes, Obito did it. The good name is to help him find his own strength. So no matter whether you do a task after graduation, it doesn't matter whether you enter Anbu. Bajian will continue as always. In the future, he will use his methods to exercise himself and let him grow up completely. Until you have the power to change everything. On the training ground, the two figures entangled again. Wield a knife, chop. Never stop. Your kid graduated quietly. Being able to endure, the wings stiffened, and I refused to accept my sister's discipline. In the early morning of the next day, Fu did not get up early and went to the training ground to practice. Bajian looked at the girl squatting on his bedside with pain. Anko, his titular sister. Bajian's most important family member. Recently, she and her best friend Kurenai Yuhi went to the outside of the village for a mission. It is estimated that I just came back to hear the news that Bajian had graduated, and I couldn't accept it for a while. On the one hand, it was hit. On the other hand, I'm afraid I don't know how to express my pride. So in the morning it was stuck at the head of Bajian's bed. After a slight glance, Anko, wearing a light veil, has a special charm. Through a strange angle gap, it seems that something like Anko's name is thriving. Anko's red, Anko's beans, Anko's Anko. How should I say it? You deserve it. The degree of boldness is comparable to Tsunade-ji. As if feeling strange, the girl blushed and jumped off the bedboard. But in order to maintain the image of her sister, she hurriedly pinched her waist and continued to scold her. Hey, when I wanted to bring you back, I didn't expect that my stupid brother could surpass my sister so quickly. My stupid brother. I always feel familiar with this. Bajian sat up from the bed instantly, and even wondered if he had studied Chakra's blade last night a little bit late, and he is still asleep now. Of course, if Anko said something stupid brother, please hate her, Bajian would believe this point even more. Well, it's my brother after all. The expression in his eyes suddenly softened, and the powerful Anko's voice carried a different kind of doting. My father and my mother went early. If they were there, they would be as proud as my sister now. From the strongest freshman who is overestimated to the genius who broke the record and graduated the fastest, father and mother will definitely give you a celebration. After a pause, Anko shook his head. Although my elder sister can't do what my father and mother do something to encourage you at this time. Although my sister is a bit incompetent, in any case, I have to congratulate my proud brother. My sister doesn't have many friends, but my sister has tried her best to let them come together to celebrate for you, although I don't know how many can come. Ah, I don't know how to say it. Anko's eyes suddenly turned red. I just want to tell you that you are not alone when you want to share the joy. You are not alone. Anko, a person who is not good at words, talked about a lot, and finally gave up the roundabouts. Yes, she just wanted to tell Bajian that you are not alone. You also have a sister to celebrate with you. What she wanted to say the most was to tell Bajian that although he had never enjoyed fatherly love and maternal love, as a sister, she would try to make up for this vacant feeling. That is the only thing she can do for Bajian. I see. No need to say anything at this time, a warm hug is enough. The atmosphere is very warm. I don't know how long it took. Anko suddenly jumped up and looked embarrassed. Others don't know. Red will definitely come. I also said to cook. Can you eat what you make? The corner of Bajian's mouth twitched. With a raised eyebrow, a smile appeared, and the boy patted his sister on the shoulder. Here comes the cook. Sneeze. Outside Mitarashi's house, Itachi, who had just raised his hand to knock on the door, sneezed fiercely. Don't know why, he suddenly had a bad feeling. Frowning, Itachi did not knock down the hand that was placed in the air for a long time. What's the matter, Itachi? Shisui behind him asked curiously. I always feel that something is wrong. A few minutes later, when Itachi looked at the stove which was much higher than him, he finally understood where the premonition had come from. Let me cook. Itachi looked at the eggs and tomatoes beside him, lost in thought. Jianzhang seems to have said that once before, a good man can go to the hall in the kitchen. No way, try it. Fire style. Great fireball technique. Boom. What's going on in the kitchen? Shisui, who was chatting with Anko and Bajian in the living room, asked suspiciously. Calm down. Bajian waved his hand and didn't care, but he remembered it clearly. There is a very clear picture in the original book, Itachi can cook. As for today's unexpected celebration, it should all be for the final relaxation of the chaos in the future. This is Anko's mind. With this alone, he can be quietly by her side. Let's fight it out. Kakashi. Boom. With the sound of the door shattering, two figures appeared in the courtyard of Mitarashi's house. Following his gaze, the doubt on Bajian's face flashed away. Hatake Kakashi. He actually came. Can Anko's invitation alone really persuade Kakashi to come to his celebration? You know, Kakashi is now passing through the darkest period. Might Guy also squeezed in with Kakashi. Compared with Kakashi, Might Guy and Bajian are very familiar with each other. At the end, Kurenai Yuhi looked helpless. In their class, all the alive, except for the patriarch of the Hyuga clan, basically came. Interesting. With a slight smile, Bajian picked up the wine gourd on the table and took a big mouthful, then threw it at Kakashi. Just when the other party was a little confused, Bajian patted his chest boldly. Come on, take a sip. Just when Kakashi received Bajian's wine gourd, Shisui, who was sitting next to him, was stunned. Once upon a time, Bajian also said this to himself. Drink a sip. This is Yi Bajian's unique way of greeting. According to Itachi, only those who are affirmed by Bajian and have enough interest will be invited like this. When Itachi explained to him, Shisui was a little proud. The pride of being affirmed. Yes, look at the few people in the house. Kurenai Yuhi, Mitarashi Anko, Uchiha's self and Itachi, Hatake Kakashi and Might Guy. No matter how you look at it, it always feels a bit strange for everyone to appear in the same room. If it was not a mission or a special event, these people would never enter the same scene. And their involvement is Yi Bajian. Holding the wine gourd in a daze, Kakashi fell silent. Wine, perhaps even today, he is still not old enough to drink. Konoha was born in 33 years and has not yet reached the age of 15 so far. But he was so tired that he had long wanted to drink, get drunk and take a good rest, or he could just sleep to death. That was the greatest enjoyment for him. Kakashi didn't plan to come when he received Anko's invitation. After all, people like him already don't want to interact with others, nor do they want to deliberately form some kind of fetters. Because except for Mr. Minato, all the people who were bound to him are dead. Lin, Obito, that is the eternal pain in his heart. But in the end he still came to Mitarashi's house, not all because of what fourth generation just said to him. To a greater extent, I want to see what kind of person broke his record. Once, he was also a genius. With a sigh of relief, Kakashi picked up the wine gourd and drank fiercely. The pungent feeling made him rise instantly. Alcohol paralysis is so comfortable. Good. Nodding to Kakashi, Bajian smiled satisfied. Hatake Kakashi. It's worth buying him a drink. The party has already begun. When Itachi started to bring out the carefully prepared dishes from the kitchen, the atmosphere has risen to a certain extent. For Bajian, today is a day to enjoy Anko's heart. Likewise, it was his last indulgence. Becoming a ninja means that his life will become busy in the future. After all, this is the world of ninjas, and the main theme of ninjas, as always, is killing. As the sun sets, Kakashi, who has left the courtyard of Mitarashi's house, walks alone on the streets of Konoha. Suddenly stopped, he stretched out his hand to cover the forehead protector leaning on his forehead. And the eyes that were blocked by the forehead protector were faintly painful. Looking at the comforting garden next to him, Kakashi sighed and walked in. Obito, Lin, putting down the white flowers in his hand, Kakashi's voice was low. The memory suddenly returned to the original scene. Obito, who was firmly pressed by the stone, gave him his eyes as a gift from Jonin. Get the heaviest gift in this life. That Sharingan. Put the forehead protector in the right position, and under the scarlet three hooks, there are tears that have already gathered into a stream. Uncontrollable tears. I don't know why, I always think of you when I see them. I even want to take the initiative to move forward. Well, someone like me would have this kind of idea, it's too funny. Putting down the forehead protector again, Kakashi murmured, if it were Yi Bajian and Itachi, the ending would be different from ours. But the new life that the teacher received seems to have no effect on washing away the darkness in my heart. Teacher's child, it won't be long, I really envy him, he was born in this age. Obito, maybe we were born later. Closing his mouth, Kakashi let out a long sigh again. The tears in his eyes gradually ceased, and he turned again, with a cat face mask on his face. He is the ninja of Anbu. The current task is to guard the pregnant Nine-Tails Jinchuriki and the wife of 4th Hokage. The figure disappeared, and there was nothing else in front of the comforting monument except the white flowers that swayed in the wind. But a few seconds later, a figure slowly walked out of the grass behind. With a wave of one hand, the small flower placed in front of the comforting stele was instantly crushed. The visitor wore a mask and couldn't see what kind of expression it was. But no matter how you look at standing in front of your grave, your mood will not be so good. Yi Bajian, Itachi, teacher's child, turning around suddenly, the scarlet Sango jade in the one-eye mask was bloodshot. We are in hell. With strange fluctuations in the space, his figure disappeared in front of the comforting monument. Only the white petals and the little tears left on the ground are telling outsiders that a disaster is approaching. 3 days later, the news that Konoha's 2 geniuses graduated early gradually settled down. In Hokage's office, there were 2 more young figures. Yi Bajian, Uchiha Itachi. Looking at the 2 little guys, Minato has a little relief on his face. There is no doubt that Konoha is the vicissitudes of life. But fortunately, in such a village, talents have emerged one after another, guarding the treasures left by the ancestors. I shook the heavy forehead protector in the handshake. Bajian looked at Minato directly in front, and the 3rd Hokage Sarutobi Hiruzen sitting next to him murmured. It's finally time to taste the blood. Actually, my original intention was to incorporate him and Itachi into Kakashi's Anbu. Pity. Inside the Naruto office, with a wry smile and sigh, Namikaze Minato looked at the documents that had been prepared. Has the kid not come out yet? 3rd generation lit the smoke gun and said with regret on his face. The kid naturally refers to Kakashi. To be honest, he admired each other very much. If it were not his father's business, the child would eventually become Konoha's mainstay. Yes, the purpose of arranging him to go to Mitarashi's house before is to get him in touch with Yi Bajian and Itachi. Looking at the photo with Obito, Kakashi, and Lin on the table, Minato's face was tangled. There is no doubt that he trusts Kakashi extremely. Even the job of being a bodyguard for his wife was handed over to the other party. But it seems that he still didn't get out of that incident. Maybe, when his child is born, he will change. For the kind of people who blindly live in the grief of the past, the arrival of new life should make him feel warm. Let's observe first. After all, they are too young to join Anbu for them. 3rd generation shook his head. Anbu and Roots. Konoha's 2 special departments were once in charge of Anbu. The Roots are managed by his old partner Shimura Danzo. People at the root are cultivated from their urination, and they even obliterate their feelings. The technique is more cruel than Anbu. The most obvious example is Yamato, the wood-style boy who was transferred from the root to Anbu by him. But Anbu, all carefully selected elite ninjas, are fundamentally different from the Roots. After the death of Hatake Tsukumo, the current Roots changed a batch of fresh blood, directly under the orders of Namikaze Minato. After all, being able to graduate from a ninja school is somewhat different from being a truly outstanding ninja. It's okay to experience it in a temporary team. But do you really think it's not good to let Orochimaru take them to study first? Putting down the pipe, 3rd generation asked suddenly. Yes, he told Minato yesterday about this proposal. But it was rejected by the other party. Orochimaru, you dare to say. I'm afraid it's a cerebral hemorrhage before I agree. Helplessly glanced at the small locked drawer in front of the next chair. It contains the most detailed report on the missing persons in the village. He has read the file, and the chief culprit is Mr. Orochimaru. Where can I send Uchiha Itachi and Yi Bajian, the best descendants of these 2 villages, to Orochimaru? I can't figure it out for 3rd generation. Did he think teacher Orochimaru was the cold coon who loved the village before? The atmosphere is a bit awkward. 3rd generation also understands that what he said is completely meaningless. Orochimaru. With a long sigh, the man's eyes appeared in 3rd generation's mind. What kind of look is that? Full of ambition and viciousness. After all, it's almost there. Jianzhang, I hate war. When coming out of the Hokage building and heading to the training ground, Itachi suddenly said something like this. Bajian glanced at Itachi's face. When I heard this moment, the law lines on the boy's face were about to turn into tears. The so-called tear ditch is a sign of tears flowing out and washing away. People like him can cry openly only on rainy days in the future. You have been a little sentimental lately. With a little finger and a pain in his forehead, Itachi closed his mouth unconsciously. Has it started, your whole life of cranky? Turning over Byakugan, Bajian grabbed Itachi by the collar and stared at him stubbornly. No matter what happens, please remember that you still have me by your side. Ha! After letting go of the ferret, the young man took a mouthful of erguotu and stretched his waist. Let's go, I'm not talking about Hokage. There are other members of the temporary team on the 8th training ground. Naruto. It seems that Jianzhang never goes to call Lord Hokage. After tidying up his clothes, Itachi walked forward behind Bajian. The training ground number 8 is similar to other Konoha training grounds. There is nothing particularly strange about it. When the two came to the court, a few figures in front of them came into view. A 10-year-old child with dark brown hair, with Konoha's genin forehead protector on his head. Next to him, there was a short-haired man with a pocky face. Are they teammates in the future? It doesn't seem to be so friendly. What, just two little ghosts? The brunette holding his shoulders frowned, quite unhappy about being treated as a babysitter. Forget it, it's a C-level task after all. Two more people have more opportunities, and how can they be geniuses who can graduate early from the ninja school? Mazi Nan played around, but from the tone of voice, it seemed a bit yin and yang. Cut, too rubbish, how can it help? I really don't know what Hokage-sama thinks. If it wasn't for Qingfeng who was injured, he would have to recuperate in the hospital. Who would use them? The brunette said disdainfully, hey, listen to the two little ghosts. Tomorrow we will perform a C-level mission to escort an important person. When that happens, remember to hide behind us and don't be scared. Ha, boom, knife light flashed. The brown-haired boy who was still arrogant just now found out in horror that the big tree next to him had split into two. Whether it's a trash or a kid, I don't want to hear these words a second time. With a grin, Bajian felt a little dull. He didn't even have the qualifications to make him angry. Leaving Itachi, today's training has not been completed yet. Seeing the back of the two leaving, Mazi Nan swallowed. Oh my goodness, what kind of monster is this? Suddenly thinking of something, he hurriedly pulled his neck and shouted, hey, we will gather at the entrance of the village at 7 o'clock tomorrow morning. Bajian, who was far away, didn't seem to hear anything, and he never turned his head. Only the ferret next to him heard Jianzhang's mouth muttering. No matter what kind of world, only strong strength is the most effective way to be affirmed. Only when you are strong can you protect what you want to protect. From beginning to end, I just want to use my strength to appreciate this beautiful ninja world. Jian sang, you deserve it. Nodded deeply, Itachi's eyes were bright. The story of Jianzhang has just begun. Anko. At night, in the cold room, Orochimaru suddenly stopped the female apprentice who was about to leave. Teacher Orochimaru. Nodded properly, Anko showed a curious look. Since following this famous teacher, she has indeed learned a lot, but there are also many strange problems along with it. For example, what does my teacher do every day? Why are there some screams in those rooms that I have never entered before? She does not know, but he didn't dare to ask. After watching Anko earnestly for a long time, Orochimaru finally shook his head. It's okay, say hello to Yi-kun for me. Just now, he suddenly remembered another huge research breakthrough besides living corpse reincarnation. Curse seal, a strange energy, distilled from the test product he had just obtained, the child named Shigego. Then mix your own cells into it, and this is the complete body of the curse seal. I just called Anko, probably because I wanted to do an experiment before leaving. The intensity of the curse seal is unbearable for ordinary people. But this did not delay him to experiment with ordinary people. But when Anko turned around, Orochimaru suddenly thought of something. The person in front of him is his ordinary apprentice. But she is also different from ordinary people. Mitarashi Anko, she has an enviable younger brother, Yi Bajian. Experimenting with Anko's body, if something goes wrong, Yi Bajian will hate himself, and maybe he will give up his life in Konoha to find him revenge. He just calculated this way. But then I thought about it, the wild eyes of the young man that day made him wake up instantly. This is her sister. Although I am not afraid, it will be very troublesome after all. And Yi Bajian made it clear that he would come to him in the future. It is obviously unnecessary to stimulate the other person on this basis. Use your own eyes to see where the child can go. This is your goal. Yes, Mr. Orochimaru. Anko nodded, somewhat inexplicably. Also, you won't use it in the future. After speaking, Orochimaru turned around and sorted out his information, which showed that no matter what question Anko was asking, he would no longer answer. Will it not be used in the future? Coming out of the room, the confusion in Anko's eyes deepened. She has a hunch that something big will happen. 1997. 1998. 1999. Ha. 2000. Ding. Congratulations, Master Host, for completing the daily task 2000 swings and rewarding the king of flat slashing template Zaraki Kenpachi with 0.2% unlocking progress. Ding! Congratulations to Master Host for achieving the achievement continuous chopping and the daily task upgrade is successful. From now on, the daily task will be renamed Never Stop and the task reward will be increased according to the increase in the number of swings per day. Appeared. Upgrade of daily tasks. Recovering Zanpakuto. Bajian summoned the system panel and looked at it. Host. Yi Bajian. World. Naruto. Unlock the King of Flat Cut template. Zaraki Kenpachi. Percentage unlocked. 7.6. Reach 10% of the King of Flat Cut template and unlock the next character template. The next time the template awakens, the progress of the second template reaches 5%. Flat cut points. 195 can be exchanged for template progress or mall items. Chakra amount. 30 genin level. Physical fitness. 80 slightly stronger. Reiatsu. Unknown. Activated feature. Chakra blade. Daily task. Hack and chop 2000 times completed. Daily mission new Never Stop. Swing the knife 1000 times to unlock 0.1% progress of all unlocked templates. Unicom polished. With 2000 swings, the chakra reserve increased by 0.1. Unicom polished. With 4000 swings, the fitness coefficient increases by 0.1. Unicom polished. Swinging the knife 6000 times, representing the energy of the soul, Reiatsu received a small enhancement. Unicom polished. Swing the knife 8000 times to unlock 0.2% progress of all unlocked templates. Unicom polished. With 10,000 swings, the chakra reserve increased by 0.2. Unicom polished. Never stop. Like the name of the daily task, as long as he keeps swinging the knife, his strength will continue to increase. Chakra, Reiatsu, and physical fitness, the most critical template progress, this is an improvement in all aspects. But these three energies do not conflict in Bajian's body. Chakra comes from body cells and spiritual energy. The stronger the physical fitness, the more chakra extracted. Reiatsu, which comes from soul energy, is the fundamental energy of Shinigami. The three do not conflict and even complement each other. When the three energies break through a certain bond and combine together in the future, Bajian believes that he will become a strong and terrifying monster. But there is only one thing, Bajian has some doubts. Why does Reiatsu show unknown? Yes, except for Reiatsu, he can see the physical value of the physical data, which is an accurate estimate of his own strength. However, Reiatsu is unknown on the system panel. Master Host, this is related to your template unlocking progress. This value will only be accurately detected when the Zaraki Kenpachi template is completely unlocked. Is that so? Bajian nodded and took a deep breath. The moon was hanging high in the sky, and Itachi had already gone home to rest and prepare for the next day's mission. And his daily tasks are no longer limited to 2000 times a day due to upgrades. In other words, swing the knife, never stop. With Zanpakuto drawn out, the fire in the heart of the boy under the moon burned again. Sea-level tasks. A task in which the person performing the task may be injured. The work may be mainly based on the invitation of other countries to participate in war, escort, conduct investigation, capture or crusade against beasts, and send confidential documents. The remuneration ranges from 30,000 taels to 100,000 taels. During the execution of sea-level missions, ninjas will not be encountered. So it's relatively easy. At the entrance of Konoha village, when Yi Bajian and Itachi arrived, the group had been waiting for a long time. In addition to the brunette and Mazi who wanted to dismiss Bajian yesterday afternoon, there is also an old man with squinting eyes in a Chinese suit. A distant relative of a high-powered nobleman in Unokuni. Well, a distant relative of a nobleman, lives a rich and moist life that is several times easier than that of a ninja. This time, he came to the country of fire to have fun. Now that the fun is over, he should also go back. The task of Bajian and others is to send him to the territory of Unokuni smoothly. Well, just two little ghosts, how does Hokage do things? The old man in Wafu was upset. It seemed that the arrival of Yi Bajian and Itachi made him feel unreliable. This is Konoha now. A foreign rubbish can talk about Hokage's deeds. Bajian sneered. This kind of disrespect, or treating the ninja with an attitude that is supposed to be, is a traditional problem left over from history. I don't know when it started, but in the eyes of these people, the ninja became just a usable object. Give money and do business. If it is not handled well, it will be criticized. This is a ninja. In the final analysis, this attitude probably began with the establishment of ninja sect. Distribute the precious chakra to others at will, and finally let everyone have the qualifications to refine chakra. This is not a heritage, but is the chief culprit that has contributed to the rise in war deaths. When Konoha's first generation of Hokage, Senju Hashirama, managed the village, Konoha's humility made people look down on the village even more. The 5 shadows would bow and salute at the meeting. If it weren't for second generation's strong opposition, he even planned to give the tail beast to other shinobu villages. What a mindfulness this is. Shaking his head, Bajian didn't even bother to talk to each other and walked in front of the team. The escort mission officially began. On the way forward, the old man of Unokuni and the other 2 genins kept their eyes on the young man walking in front. The reason is simple: along the way, he has been waving the strange knife in his hand. Jianzhang, isn't today's training already over? Beside Bajian, Itachi asked strangely. Today, he and Jianzhang went directly to the Konoha village from the training ground. After getting up early, he and Bajian sweated in the training ground early. Cultivation is over. Itachi, there is never an end to this kind of practice. Shaking his head, Bajian exhaled a little. His daily tasks have been broken through, and each swing of the knife is an accumulation, and it never stops. You deserve it. Jianzhang nodded. Itachi's hands began to move. In order to save the shuriken, it is impossible for him to throw wantonly like in the training ground. This time is only suitable for practicing the speed of Jain. Looking at Itachi, Bajian finally swallowed what he wanted to say. That's right, he wanted to tell Itachi that only honest people will continue to seal the seal in the later stage. Isn't that something called a clap? After thinking about it, he still gave up. At least it's not a bad thing to practice not printing speed now. Grabbing the wine gourd, he took a sip while waving Zanpakuto, and his gaze casually glanced at the woods next to him. He came anyway. Even under his own influence, Itachi graduated a year earlier, but he still hasn't escaped his fate. Is it noticed? After a group of people passed by, a figure with a mask appeared under the shadow. Obviously, they have been targeted. As for the reason, in addition to Obito's curiosity, Kakashi also said something in front of the memorial monument. When I see them, I always think of myself. Extremely ridiculous. Destroying the beliefs of others is like the collapse of his own beliefs. This is what Obito is going to do. The game has just begun. Whoosh whoosh. The team continued to move forward. But when they were about to cross a dense jungle, a dozen or so armed warriors suddenly blocked their way. Enemy attack. For an instant, the team's atmosphere stagnated for a short time. The Mazi Nan, who recovered his senses, quickly grabbed Kuwu and pinched it in his hand, and then shouted to the front, "Quickly go back and protect Lord Nani." Yeah, it turned out that his name was Nani. Weasel did not move, and had already drawn out his shuriken ready to attack, but Bajian took a step forward in the opposite direction. Sure enough, it's a fancy. I'm afraid I'm scared. In the end, I still don't know how to cooperate, and I don't follow the instructions. The brunette said angrily. The killer is no unnecessary nonsense. When Bajian took a step forward, a figure had already rushed in front of him. The light of the knife flashed, and the red blood tickled to the ground. Sword sang. Behind the boy, Itachi looked worriedly at the long knife that Bajian had grasped with one hand. Strong, almost mean. Suddenly raising his head, the samurai with the sword suddenly saw something unusual in the boy's eyes. Fierce and wild. Puff. Immediately afterwards, there was a colic in his chest, and an ordinary knife had penetrated him. This is the feeling of pain. The feeling of real fighting. At this moment, the animalism of the roaring evil spirit from the Shinigami world is completely integrated with Yi Bajian. He is Shinigami. Come on, fight. With blood spilling on his face, Itachi saw the face that was gradually distorted because of excitement. The boy in front of him was familiar and unfamiliar. But there is no doubt that he is Jianzhang. Following the footsteps of the young man, Itachi also rushed up. When the wailing sound mixed with a long knife into the abdomen, the joyful feeling hit. The narrow road has turned into a purgatory on earth. The evil spirits roared and crawled out of hell, reaping people's lives mercilessly. Thump. The last samurai fell. Yi Bajian's body was already covered with blood. Look at the entire battlefield. The horrified faces of a dozen corpses before they died, and the scarlet all over the floor made people shocking. The two genins who had originally protected Nani-sama behind them had already threw up in the weed pile beside them. They are only performing sea-level tasks for the first time. Before such things as dead people, I was still thinking about how far away they would be. But this is like a picture of hell, so they can't bear it at all. Call. Spit out a foul breath. Bajian leaned under the big tree next to him. Extend the hand that grabbed the blade before that, and then grabbed the wine gourd and poured alcohol on it. The author disinfected. He tore off the bandage, and just about to wrap it up, he snatched the job with a hand next to him. Looking at the incision in his hand, Itachi frowned. Jianzhang, based on what I know about you, you can avoid this level of yourself before swinging the knife at you. You can even kill him before he attacks you. But why do you have to pick it up with your hands? Itachi didn't understand. He only knew this knife, and Jianzhang had no reason to be hit. Itachi, I am a man. Shaking his head, the killing intent in Bajian's eyes has disappeared. Of course he is a human being. And this is my first murder. Killing for the first time. Things I overlooked. After returning to his senses, Itachi trembled. Like Bajian, he was the first to kill. I don't know if panic and fear will come. But before encountering that emotion, letting pain replace this feeling, it works well. At least I killed them all soberly. Bored Energuotu, Bajian's face was mocking. Only when he was murdering did he know that when he was reading a novel in his previous life, the protagonist could overcome that discomfort by understatement, which was simply nonsense. Especially the first time killing. Just seeing Itachi trembling and bandaging his hand, Bajian understood what kind of psychology it was. But from today onwards, that emotion will no longer exist. This is a will tempered by blood. As a ninja, when performing missions, not killing means being killed. He shook his bandaged hand, and the slight pain made Bajian completely understand what kind of world he was in. Naruto. Hidden under the blood is the principle of the weak eating the weak. Even Naruto, who is wearing the protagonist's halo, knows that if he chooses his mouth to escape without defeating the opponent, it has no effect at all. This is the real world. And the man next to him, no matter from that angle, there is no blood to speak of. Sword sang. At this time, Itachi had completely understood Jianzhang's words, paralyzed his nerves with pain, and then walked from the pain to understand fear more deeply, and then conquered fear. He was also worried about Jianzhang's comfort, and then rushed over without hesitation. Am I conquering fear? Itachi didn't know. He only knew the extremely angry feeling in his heart when the enemy's knife slashed at Jianzhang. No one can hurt my friend. No one can do it. There was a sting in his eyes, and Itachi shook his head. It's a pity that in the end, the hurdle still didn't pass through with a single breath. His Sharingan was still silent. Hey, the one named Sao's Pheasant Jiro, and Jingtai Maru, it is best to hide behind me on the next escort road, otherwise you will die. Shaking off the blood on Zanpakuto, Bajian yelled at the two dragons who were vomiting outrageously, then stood up and strode forward. Bajian perceives the volatile soul fluctuations in his consciousness very clearly. He didn't know whether this sudden assassination had something to do with the soul fluctuation, but it was certain that the person would not let himself and others go smoothly on the next journey. Itachi's first sea-level mission is said to be. That pair of scarlet, full of grief Sharingan, will also fully unfold. This is clearly what I told them before. Now he was sent back in the same tone. Sao's Pheasant Jiro gave a wry smile and looked at his companion Mauzilian. What else can they say? I am afraid that if Yi Bajian and Uchiha Itachi weren't suddenly incorporated into the team, they would have been wiped out by this assassination alone. Not to mention that their guide, Jonin, is not there, or the lack of a companion is why it fails. This is a manifestation of insufficient hard power. Perhaps they are not worthy of being a ninja. Not every team will be treated like Konoha Xiaoqiang in the future, especially in this era. Konoha has just experienced the serious loss of the Third Ninja War, and there are many such orphan teams. The team continued to advance. Everything seemed to calm down, a breeze blew, and a masked person suddenly appeared staring at the corpse on the ground. Are you killed? I underestimated them, but then, it won't be so easy to deal with. The space surging, the masked man slowly disappeared, and he reappeared, but on the only way not far in front of the escort team, several strange, human beings, with white bodies slowly drilled out of the ground around him. Kill them. Yes, the Third Ninja World War did not end completely. Just as the ninjas of Cloud Shinobi Village are still stationed on the border between the Land of Thunder and the Land of Fire, they are waiting for the opportunity. Wait for Konoha to change. Where did the news of the change come from? This is worth studying. Just as Danzo seemed to know in advance that something was going to happen. The flames of war did not subside. Performing tasks outside the village has also become extremely dangerous. When Yi Bajian and his team stopped again, the killing seemed to begin again. No, obviously just suffered an assassination. Looking at the aggressive masked ninjas in front of him, Mr. Nani was completely panicked. He had no idea that he would get into such a big trouble when he came out this time. Calculating carefully, given his status in Unokuni, no one would send a ninja to kill himself. As for other countries, there is not much overlap with a nobleman like him. Why do ninjas appear? Saojiro and Jingtai Maru looked at each other, and they saw the despair in each other's eyes. Just despair. If there is still a glimmer of life in the previous battle, they currently have no way to win at all. Judging from the mask worn by the opponent, one can already guess that it is an Anbu ninja from a certain village. Looking around, 20 ninjas have surrounded them. 20-4. Also protect a drag. How to fight this kind of battle? They are just newbies genin who have graduated in less than a year. This world is too scary. Sword sang. Itachi looked solemn, and Kuwu had already pinched it in his hand and looked at the man next to him. There is no doubt that Jianzhang was his backbone when the crisis came. Just as Jianzhang once said, with him, you don't have to panic. The strength lies between genin and chunin, but the tricky ones haven't come out yet. After scanning around, Bajian took a deep breath and made a calm analysis. After the first killing, he has no longer panic. From the chaotic soul fluctuations from these bodies, Bajian understood who was behind the mask. White Zetsu. Thousands of years ago, the product of infinite Tsukuyomi. Kagaya wanted to fight against Otsutsuki and refined weapons. Obito finally took the shot. Bajian didn't know the reason for the move. Perhaps because his name is Uchiha Obito, there is no need to know the reason. In the original book, Obito shoots at the young Itachi, and there is no reason. He only left a good name saying that he helped the other party gain strength. He understood that only hatred was a necessary condition for Uchiha's evolution. He also brazenly told Itachi in the name of Madara that he killed his own brother and used his younger brother's eyes in order to gain strength. The ridiculous clown. What does Obito, who doesn't know Madara at all, understand? Madara let Obito know only the things he wants him to know. Although the troublesome person hasn't come out yet, the immediate trouble should be dealt with. Slowly withdraw Zanpakuto, and chakra instantly covered it. As the pale blue chakra became extremely sharp, at this moment, he turned into the wind without a trace. Remember the training a few days ago. With a slight flick, Bajian Zanpakuto's breaking through the air made it nodded fiercely. Clear. Spit out 2 words. Facing the upcoming enemy, Itachi's hands began to seal quickly. Si Wei Shen Hai Wu Yin. Fire style. Great fireball technique. The fire chilled the small face of Itachi, and at the same time, the knife with the wind attribute chakra nature transformation slashed forward fiercely. The strong cutting and absorption changed the shape of the great fireball of Itachi. In the next second, a majestic burning long knife slashed from top to bottom. Combination ninjutsu. Only 2 people with a certain degree of tacit understanding can be used together. Both the amount of chakra and the timing of swinging the knife must be perfectly controlled, otherwise it will fail. The wind is helping the fire, and because Bajian's chakra nature transformation is the highest priority in the Naruto world, Great Fireball has become a fierce fire sword. What kind of trick is this? The 2 dragon sets behind Genin were completely stunned. And Obito, who was hiding by the side, couldn't help but open his mouth. Combined ninjutsu, it can still be used like this. Boom. The fire knife hit the ground, and several enemies in front of them were smashed into the ground before they had time to escape. And when the fire knife cut their skin, the fear from the heart exploded completely. The flame that can cut the body. Cut the wound, but the inside of the wound was burned again by flames. The lethality is strong to a certain extent. Great Fireball, an ordinary C-level ninjutsu, abruptly displayed the power of A-level or even above. These two little ghosts. Sharingan in the mask on his face narrowed slightly, and Obito's breathing stopped briefly. No wonder Kakashi said that when he saw them, he always thought of the previous Minato class. Just this kind of tacit understanding is not comparable to ordinary people. The fire knife slammed down. But the battle has just begun. When Bajian and Itachi rushed to the ninjas that White Zetsu changed, the battle began completely. However, similar to Bajian's guess, these ninjas weren't very strong. Under his chakra blade and Itachi's supplementary knife, they all fell after a while. Jianzhang is so strong. Looking at the corpses around, and thinking of the flame knife before, Itachi had a little pride on his face. Very capable. But just when Itachi wanted to say something, a man with a mask suddenly appeared. Frowning, Itachi unconsciously stood in front of Bajian and shielded him with his body subconsciously. Jianzhang said that the tricky part is still behind. And the person in front of you should be the tricky object. Hidden guy, who are you? Indeed, it is impossible for a nobleman in Unokuni to attract so many ninjas. In this way, the identity of the other party is also questionable. Who is he? Looking at Bajian and Itachi, the masked man suddenly tilted his neck, and then said a word in a very gloomy tone. My name, Uchiha Madara. The air stagnated for a while. Immediately afterwards, puff. But when he said these words, the boy couldn't help laughing for a while. See it. Obito said that he is Uchiha Madara. Boy, what are you laughing at? With indifferent killing intent in his eyes, Obito under the mask looked a little annoyed. What is he laughing at? Even Itachi was a little overwhelmed by Bajian's smile. He didn't know how difficult the enemy was in front of him. But what is the reason for the laugh in this situation? You said you were Uchiha Madara. Bajian shook his head, suddenly feeling a little dull. Taking a sip from the wine bottle, he lightly patted Itachi on the shoulder. Come on, tell him who Uchiha Madara is. Who is Uchiha Madara? When he heard these words, Obito snorted and clearly misunderstood. It seems that it is useless for him to reveal Madara's name in front of a group of little ghosts. Those who have not experienced that era do not understand what the 4 words Uchiha Madara represent. Unexpectedly, Itachi started to speak in front of him. Uchiha Madara, the patriarch of the Uchiha clan during the Sengoku period. Combined with the Senju clan to smooth out the troubled times, one of the founders of Konoha. Itachi said calmly, finally defected to Konoha and fought with first Hokage in the Valley of End, and was killed by Senju Hashirama. Hehe, I didn't expect anyone to remember me. Obito smiled very cooperatively. It seems that at this moment, he is being told about the veritable Uchiha Madara. Shish. And Bajian stretched out his index finger and shoved lightly to break the other's fantasy. This is Uchiha Madara he knows. Do you want to listen to what I know? For example, actually Madara didn't die in the Valley of the End. For another example, he has been making seemingly stupid plans for peace. What does this kid know? Obito looked at Bajian coldly. At this moment, his killing intent had reached its peak. The Uchiha Madara in my mind will never wear a mask and yell that he is Uchiha Madara. There is no need to tiptoe for things like that, if you really are Uchiha Madara. Lifting Zanpakudo, Bajian pointed at Obito remotely. Put down the mask and show me. Put down the mask and show me. The young boy's loud voice made Obito tremble with anger. For the first time, he was demolished under the name Madara. And the one who demolished the stage is still to the kid. Just an arrogant kid. He must die. It wasn't that he had debunked his Uchiha Madara's name, but because of what he knew made Obito a little creepy. This is not an ordinary kid. Without extra nonsense, Obito's body rushed straight to Bajian. Project Tasuki no Mi, that is absolutely confidential. Even Nagato didn't know the real content of Project Tasuki no Mi, and he had to take action with what they knew before him. Come yet. Bajian took a deep breath and squeezed Zanpakudo firmly. Enraged Obito. It wasn't for pretending to be forced. In fact, there were no objects around him who witnessed him pretending to be forced. It was Obito, a person who pretended to be forced everywhere under the name Uchiha Madara, which made him very upset. In particular, such an unprovoked attack is enough to show how frantic Obito has become. He asked himself, he didn't provoke the opponent, but the attack still came. In addition to the counterattack of the attack, Bajian also confirmed one thing. As we all know, most of Obito's ability comes from his pupil technique Kamui. It is a time and space ninjutsu that can completely avoid damage. Before being attacked, he hides his body in the Kamui space to avoid damage. The ability to make people a headache. What Bajian wants to test is whether his attack can cause damage to Obito of Master Space Ninjutsu. This point is very important. If it succeeds, Obito will be particularly afraid of him in the future. If it fails, the person in front of him will design himself even harder. You also deserve to be called Uchiha Madara. Zanpakuto pointed at Obito far away, and Bajian let out a sudden roar. What's the use of talking more? Only fighting is the best way to understand the opponent's abilities. Looking at Obito, only the killing intent of a Sharingan was revealed. What Bajian couldn't understand the most was that it was you who attacked me, and now you are still angry. What's the reason? Sword pressure. As the name of the move. Zaraki Kenpachi's most effective attack method is to crush others with soul power. With the golden light slashing towards Obito from top to bottom, a devastating beam of light descended from the sky. Although it was a tentative attack, when Reiatsu's energy, which was more mysterious than chakra, exploded, the damage it caused was extremely terrifying. The enemy is Obito, and Bajian has no intention of keeping his hands at all. Unlike Orochimaru, this is someone who really wants to kill himself. The earth trembled suddenly, and the sword slammed on the ground, leaving a trace several meters deep. Obito's body didn't stop for half a minute, and he didn't seem to receive any damage. Space ninjutsu is really tricky. Squinting his eyes, Bajian rushed up and slashed at Obito's head. Exactly as expected, Zanpakuto stroked Obito's head and touched nothingness. Obito, who flew past Bajian's head, had a successful smile in his eyes, and one hand was already close to Bajian's back. Die, kid, dead in this hypocritical world. Sharingan, known as the Eye of Soul Portrayal. As Sharingan evolves, there will always be pain. Therefore, the people of the Uchiha clan are hailed as an evil clan. This name was originally left by Konoha second Hokage Senju Tobirama, the evil family. But thinking about it from another angle, isn't this pair of eyes because of the unforgettable pain when losing a loved one? After experiencing the pain, the master gained strength. This is the Uchiha clan. And when Sharingan has evolved to a certain extent, the awakened pupil technique will often respond to the mind of the owner of the eye. Just like Obito's ability in front of him. He denies this world, does not admit that this world is real, he wants to create another world. So Kamui appeared. The soul portrayal eye, the origin and function of the eye. Itachi, who is not far behind Bajian, no longer wants to ponder it. When he saw the masked man stretch his hand to Bajian's back heart, he instinctively felt that his eyes began to ache. His heart was shaking violently. Jianzhang. A loud roar from behind made Obito and Bajian stunned. But the battle continues. When Obito's hand was about to succeed, the boy's body suddenly tilted, and the path of the knife in his hand instantly changed and slashed behind him. This kid. A trace of anger flashed in his eyes. Obito turned his body into hollow again, letting Bajian's attack miss. Turning around and glaring at Uchiha Itachi, Obito took a deep breath. It seems that he is the one you cherish. Undoubtedly, he attributed Bajian's reaction and counterattack to the yelling Itachi. As a senior of the Uchiha clan, I will help you. Let you see how ridiculous this family is. The battle begins again. At this moment, Obito became serious. Although a little ridiculous, he referred to himself as Uchiha Madara, but he had to take a kid seriously. But he didn't want to actually encounter the terrible knife light just now. The figure shuttles. The young man with the knife seemed to have entered the rhythm, and Bajian, who had truly entered the fighting state, let out roars like evil spirits. And Zanpakuto in his hand shook everything around him every time he swiped it. At this moment, what was entangled in his sword was not the familiar chakra, but a kind of power that made one's heart palpitating. Soul energy named Reiatsu, Jien sang. His eyes were stinging, but Itachi could no longer take care of that much, and the shuriken in his hand was ready to launch to respond to Bajin at any time. He knew that he could not help rashly at this time, otherwise it would disrupt the rhythm of the person in the fight. Often when masters are playing against each other, one side of the teammates watching the game is not soy sauce. This is the reason. Almost. The trajectory is about to be seen clearly. The battle continued. The difference was that the eyes of Itachi on the sidelines were red, and a line of blood and tears gathered and shed slowly. He is seeing a certain pattern. And on the field, sticking to his beliefs, the young man kept swinging his knife. He even had the illusion of taking this battle as a cultivation practice. Yes, he was brandishing a knife all the time. The more you swing the knife, the stronger he will be. A simple flat cut, but Uchiha Obito couldn't find a chance to start at all. Often the moment he was about to take his shot and become an entity, that young man would always catch that point by coincidence and counterattack. Obito, taking this timing is a coincidence. Because Kamui's existence is only known to him. At least now, he hasn't felt Kakashi using the other eye's pupil technique. Therefore, Kamui's so-called weakness can never be seen by a kid. But this deadlock was broken by a cry in the next moment. Jianzhang. Although I don't know how he can achieve an unscrupulous hollow body, if I am not mistaken, the source of all this power in his eyes. Mangekyo Sharingan is one level closer to 3 Tomo Sharingan. I haven't found the rule for the time being, but what is certain is that he must be converted into an entity when he really wants to attack. So, Itachi calmed down after taking a deep breath. As long as you catch this, you can attack him. Even in extremely disadvantaged situations, he can still judge the situation calmly. And give the most direct analysis. This is Uchiha Itachi. Innate fighting talent. A well-deserved genius. Uchiha's kid. Under the Obito mask in the battle was the flash of surprise. Not long after the battle started, the opponent had already figured out how to attack him effectively. Genius. There is also a tacit understanding between the two. A god, Obito seemed to think of the perfect match when he and Kakashi went to save Lin. Seeing them is like seeing yourself. Thinking of Kakashi's words in front of my comforting monument again, an emotion called anger accelerated Obito's figure instantly, holding kunai in his hand, and stabbing the young man in front of him fiercely. The so-called friendship and the so-called fetters do not exist. This world is full of falsehoods, and only destruction is the only way to save the world. Puff. The voice of suffering is clear and audible. But the scene where Obito expected to kill the boy Uchiha did not appear. A not-so-tall figure stood in front of him, and his kunai was pinched by the opponent's hand. Jien sang. The blood and tears continued to flow. When 2 mysterious Guyu appeared in the pupil of Itachi. The voice of the boy followed. It will be transformed into an entity when it is attacked. That should be it. The deep voice does not know the joys and sorrows. Itachi, a good opportunity. Turning his head to give him a smile, Bajin waved his knife with one hand. Seizing the once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, the golden knife light flashed again. Howl. The arm that pierced kunai flew to the sky. Self-proclaimed Uchiha Madara's masked man, his hand was broken. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.